Welcome to Simply News, your trusted news source where we report the facts, along with political and historic perspectives from all sides. Feel free to listen to this internet radio news podcast while you continue on with other tasks. Now, on to the news. Eastern Europe and Ukraine, the ongoing conflict. In the first weeks of 2025, attention remains fixed on the continued tension in Eastern Europe, particularly concerning Ukraine's sovereignty and a strained security environment. For many, the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine was a distant memory, but the geopolitical ripples persist, echoing through NATO summits and driving new defense initiatives. As of this year, fragmented ceasefires in eastern territories hover in a delicate balance, while civilian rebuilding projects progress unevenly. Diplomatic negotiations saw an uptick in late 2024, with truce proposals debated between Russian and Ukrainian delegates under the auspices of the Organization for Security and Cooperation in Europe, OSCE. Few expected a swift resolution, but it was widely hoped that dialogue could reduce open hostilities. Instead, sporadic flare-ups underscore a lethal unpredictability. Residential areas near contact lines still endure sporadic shelling, and roughly 1.5 million internally displaced persons remain in limbo, wanting stability to rebuild lives and communities. Internationally, sanctions still loom large. Western powers continue to tighten economic nooses in response to alleged Russian violations of territorial integrity. Ongoing debates in the European Union revolve around whether more aggressive measures might do more harm than good, particularly to Europe's already stressed energy supplies. Source: Reuters EU Energy and Sanctions. Report 2024. Meanwhile, European capitals, especially in the Baltic states and Poland, reinforce defenses, mindful of potential spillover. Humanitarian organizations have focused on the conflict's enduring mental health impacts. Reports from Médecins Sans Frontières and the International Red Cross highlight increased incidences of PTSD and limited access to counseling resources. Infrastructure for basic services in contested regions remains patchwork at best. Global financial institutions, including the World Bank, have tried to facilitate low-interest loans for reconstruction. Those funds, however, move slowly amid complex compliance checks to ensure they aren't misused. Ukraine's leadership has pivoted toward deeper integration with Western institutions. The country's push for membership in the European Union has cleared preliminary hurdles, but a comprehensive accession process is still years away. Public sentiment inside Ukraine generally favors alignment with Europe, a stance that has shaped electoral outcomes since 2023. Meanwhile, Russia's position remains that any expansion of NATO or the EU up to its borders is a security risk. This stance has triggered realignments in the broader region, with countries from Central Asia to the Caucasus reassessing their foreign policy alliances. As 2025 unfolds, the conflict's complexity exemplifies a modern standoff that blends conventional military operations with cyber tactics, economic pressure, and a battle for public narrative. Despite the adversity, local volunteers, NGOs, and international charities continue to step up. Grassroots reconciliation programs in borderline communities strive to mend divides, focusing on dialogue and cooperation to tackle day-to-day hardships. In many ways, these small-scale steps show a path forward. Resilience, empathy, and compromise might be the conflict's best cure. Political impact and perception. Liberal perspective. Liberals generally support sanctions against perceived Russian aggression, coupled with humanitarian aid for Ukraine. They emphasize international law, favor diplomacy, and push for robust refugee assistance. Progressive perspective. Progressives call for anti-war activism. They typically demand greater accountability for any human rights violations, more funding for rehabilitation, and stronger global frameworks that prevent aggression. Independent perspective. Independents often weigh the cost of intervention against the moral obligation to protect sovereignty. They may be split on whether continued sanctions and arms supplies are the best strategy. Right-wing perspective. On the conservative front, some call for a more forceful deterrent posture, supporting increased defense spending and readiness, while also voicing skepticism about indefinite, open-ended support for foreign conflicts. Christian right perspective. Christian right segments focus on providing faith-based humanitarian aid and highlight the plight of religious communities in war-torn areas. Their stance often aligns with broader conservative calls for moral clarity against aggression, historic responses, and data-based predictions. Historically, prolonged conflicts, from the Balkans in the 1990s to the Middle East, trigger cycles of negotiation fatigue. Source: Rand Corporation Study on Protracted Conflicts, 2015. Public sentiment can sway strongly against indefinite engagement if tangible progress remains elusive. Surveys by the European Council on Foreign Relations, 2024, indicate that 55% of Europeans worry about the economic fallout from extended sanctions. Given these trends, likely reactions include liberals and progressives, calls to strengthen diplomatic channels, invest more in civilian aid, and accelerate Ukrainian institutional reforms. Independents, gradual wariness of indefinite financial commitments without clear metrics for peace or reconstruction impact. Right-wing and Christian right, staunch posture on national defense and moral condemnation of aggression, but growing reluctance to bankroll long-term foreign entanglements without defined outcomes. Data references: European Council on Foreign Relations Polling, 2024, Rand Protracted Conflict Analyses, 2015, Reuters EU Energy and Sanctions Coverage, 2024. SimplyNews.org hopes you found this reporting to be informative, enlightening, and thought-provoking. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and follow us on streaming and social media platforms where available. Looking for a deeper dive with more insight that considers all political perspectives? Check out our Deep Dives podcast for this news story on Facebook, YouTube, and other podcast platforms. Until next time, stay informed and in the know.